KiD. That's some 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 KiD. I see you. That's some KiD. 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 That's some KiD KiD.
Hey there, welcome back to Some KiD. We are on episode 4, which means that we are on principle number 4. And principle number 4 is platform. So far we've talked about connection. So far we've talked about community. So far we've talked about faith. And now we're talking about creating platforms for our students. So for this particular principle, we're going to be looking at 3 chapters. That's chapter 10, 11, and 12. And just to give a brief summary of those chapters, in chapter 10, previously, I believe it was in the community section, we talked about how Templetons are important for a classroom environment.
Yeah.
In this section, it shows you just how important Templeton is. Fern's little brother Avery is coming at Charlotte with a stick. He's most likely going to kill her or destroy her web. And he trips and falls and breaks open the rotten goose egg that Templeton has been saving. And because of that, Avery runs off. It stinks in the barn, but Templeton saves Charlotte. Without Templeton, the rest of this story does not happen and Wilbur does not get saved. So in chapter 10, it's very clear, and even Templeton says it. Templeton says, see, it pays to save things. A rat never knows when something is going to come in handy. And not saying some of your students are rats, but that Templeton character plays a role in every classroom environment. So then if you get into chapter 11, this is when, it's called the miracle. This is when the miracle shows up. This is when Charlotte, in her web, she writes some pig. This is also the namesake of our series. And the reason for that is that the idea behind Some KiD is that you are convincing others and convincing your student that they're not just any kid, they are some kid. Like that is a kid worth looking at, like praising. That is a kid worth saying, hey, that kid's important to be around. That's our goal as teachers. And so when she does this in the web, and this is our principle for this section, we are talking about how she is using her platform as a spider. Again, this is the only thing she has. She can't do anything else for him to save him, but she uses the one thing she does have, which is her ability to spin webs and to create webs, to write a message in the web that is showcasing who Wilbur is. Mrs. Zuckerman says, it seems to me you're a little off. It seems to me we have no ordinary spider. And then Zuckerman says, no, oh no. It's a pig that's unusual. It says so right there in the middle of the web. And that's the power of this, is that
People believe what they see in print.
people believe what they see in print. And so they see it and he says, no. It's the spider did it, but the spider is trying to tell us what's really important here. The spider would not just go out of its way to write a message in the web unless there was something special about that pig. In the same way, this teacher would not go out of their way to let us know to use their platform unless there was something special about this particular student. And chapter 12, of course, is a meeting. This is getting back to that sense of community. This is where they are all coming together and saying, okay, this really went off. It was a hit. We need to come up with our next word. What's going to be our next word? And so what you see is the entire community start to gather around that platform, which is now Charlotte's Web. Charlotte's Web is a platform that can accomplish so much. How do we together work through this platform? Now, for me, when I think of this, I think of when I was in your class, because I had my mom as a teacher sophomore year. And I think of, in particular, your Lord of the Flies assignment was a super popular one with every student. I knew it was coming because students ahead of me loved it and students after me loved it, but it was because of the way that you structured it. What was it about that particular assignment that offered a platform for any student in your class?
Well, first of all, I have to give credit to the teacher who created that whole assignment and handed it off to me when she left the year I came in.
Okay.
And she did a great job on that assignment because it had so many different aspects to it, and students could be very creative. There were so many different sections to it that students could work on. They earned points, and there was a variety of ways they could earn points. Mm-hmm. They could build things. They could illustrate.
Make movies?
They could make movies. If they wanted to write a new ending, If they, they could write, they could, if they were into vocabulary, they could work on the vocabulary that was in the book. There were so many avenues that they could work through.
And so because you created it, you obviously, or this other teacher, you created the platform in the classroom for them to showcase what they had. But what you saw was just such an explosion of creativity. Anybody who walked in your classroom could see it, because, the day of those presentations, when they brought them in, whether it was physical representations of the island, or whether it was 5-minute movies to watch, or whether it was art pieces all over your classroom, or whether it was students giving speeches or like monologues, things like that, there was just this energy because everybody was bringing what they had to offer, almost like a potluck.
Exactly.
To this particular assignment.
And it was so much fun. I remember one student in particular, I needed to go out to his house. He lived on Long Beach, and he had recreated a scene from the book on the beach, And it's unbelievable what students will think of that they want to do.
Yeah. So you're saying he actually built, I believe he built a fort. Was that right?
He did.
Yeah. Like in the woods near the beach, right?
Yeah, he did. And it was just very interesting what the students came up with.
Yeah.
And the ways that they chose to share it. And it never ceased to amaze me. And the interesting thing about that unit too is you could use it for a general education class, or you could use it for an honors class. Now, what you would get out of those two classes might be totally different, might be on a whole other level. But all of the students in both classes enjoyed the project.
Yeah.
Because it enabled them to be creative.
Yeah. And it allowed them to showcase a side of themselves publicly that they wouldn't ordinarily get to. And then that was, by publicly revealing that they then could continue walking down that road and saying, oh, I want to do more things in that area. This was really interesting. I had fun collaborating with this group of people. I want to do that again. And so the platform itself created this awesome experience. And mine's super easy because, you've seen it for 10 years now or more. I write educational songs. And then, so I write the majority of the songs. But what I do as soon as I'm finished with them is I beta test them, and then I hand them off to my students. And you've seen my students on stages. You see my students all over the place singing those songs. But when my students take the songs, I'm not the one who's getting credit for those songs. I'm not the one who's in the spotlights. I'm not the one who's really taking it to the next level. When you pass that off and you allow the platform to then, platform your students, they then can shine in their own unique ways. And that's what I found in my case. I would write the songs, I would pass them off to my students, and I knew the songs were strong lyrically, content-wise, all of that. But the way that they would take them and just expand upon them, and it was just, it wasn't this, chapter 10, it's a different kind of explosion, but it was an explosion of just creativity and energy that I couldn't bring to it. But by giving them the platform, they were able to transform it into something that they could use. And it wasn't just that they performed it. It was that they received the attention from it, the positive attention. They received this, like I had one student, it was my song, I Am So Hip. And he had the verse, what verse did he have? He had the metaphor verse in I Am So Hip. And when we were before a music video, for an unrelated music video shoot that we were at, someone came up to him and they were like, that's great, you can rap it. What does it mean? Like, what is a metaphor? And all of us are like, did we do our job? And he did a perfect job of explaining what a metaphor was. And the person was like, that's great. But when you platform someone, it puts the onus on them to then say, oh, wow. So I'm some pig, I'm some kid. I now have to live up to that. If I'm going to stand up and do the metaphor verse, at the end of it, someone could say, so what was that about? And you have to be responsible for carrying that verse, not just the lyrics, but for the content itself. And otherwise, you're just going to look like a fool. And so that's one of the great things about platforming students is that you're pushing them to get out there to showcase their strengths. But at the same time, you're also asking them to take responsibility for it. So the students in your class who were super artistic with Lord of the Flies, they no longer could hide that artistic ability. So if someone said, hey, can you do this for this project? Or do you want to do the art project on this? They couldn't be like, oh no, I can't do that. They couldn't hide anymore. It was, yeah, I think I can do that. And so it allows them to take it and extend upon it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that is principle number 4, which is platforming. What I want you all to discuss with your small groups is I want you to discuss what powers you have, what platforms you have. In Charlotte's case, your web. What web do you have that you can use to platform your students and allow them to showcase what they have inside for the rest of the world? Because we all know that Charlotte, through her platform, Wilbur's buy-in to that, he suddenly became some pig, not just in his own eyes, but in the eyes of everybody in the community. And so what are some ways that you can platform your students so that they become some kid in their eyes and then in the eyes of the broader community? And when we're talking about this, a lot of people may be struggling with the idea of, okay, what is my platform? What am I good at? You just kind of have to dig into what you're good at. I mean, obviously, I love all things like lyricism and words and songs and things like that. But if you ask me to like dig into artistic things, I'm not like a painter. I'm not that good with art. I love stick figure comics, but that's about it. There are so many things that I'm not good at that I wouldn't even try to pretend to be able to platform my students with. So you need to think about the way that you are individually wired to platform your students, because you may not be the teacher that's introducing songs into your classroom. You may not have the type of classroom you can introduce a project of the scale of Lord of the Flies, but there's something that you can do, a part of who you are, that you can use to platform a student, even if it's out in the community, even if you have a community connection and you find out that one of your students is interested in wrestling and you say, hey, I can reach out to this organization that offers scholarships for the local wrestling team, and I can plug my student into this wrestling team and use someone else's platform that I have access to transform my student's life. And so it's not just even your platforms, it's the platforms that you have access to, whether that's your family or college connections or business connections, whatever it is. How can you create a platform for your student to shine? All right, talk about it. We'll see you next time.